Have you ever asked God, when is it going to be my turn? Have you ever asked yourself that? When is it finally going to be my turn? Where everywhere you look, your friends and families, they're getting their prayers answered. They're reaping the harvest. Life is just falling into place for them. Meanwhile, you're trying to keep your head above water and you're wondering if God even hears the prayers that come out of your mouth. I have been there. I have thrown many a pity parties in my prayer closet, and God always encourages me to open up my Bible so that his words will be at the forefront of my mind rather than the negative intrusive thoughts that the enemy tries to attack me with. So I want to read this passage to you, and I hope it encourages you. I'm going to bounce around a little bit. In John chapter 15, it says this in verse 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. God chose you. He appointed you for such a time as this. And not only that, he wants to answer your prayers, and he wants you to have a fruitful life. But what is it that we have to do in order for these things to actually come into fruition, which God choosing us will never change. It will remain the same. But verse 7 says this: if you abide in me and my words abide in you, then ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you may bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples. If you abide in me and my word abides in you. In other words, all that God cares about is that your life would be fully surrendered to him, and that these words, this Bible, would be your compass and direction for everything that you do in this life, because he wants you to bear fruit. But our idea of what fruit is and what his idea of what fruit is might actually be different. We just might want to take care of all of these earthly issues that we have, like success and provision. Meanwhile, God is trying to teach you perseverance and patience and the fruits of the Spirit. And yes, he has called you and chosen you for such a time as this. But for a lot of us, such a time as this might be a very stressful and overwhelming time of our lives where nothing makes sense. But what matters is how we respond to these seasons, choosing to allow God to bear the burdens, because we don't get this badge of honor when we choose to deal with things on our own strength. God wants to take the burden off of our shoulders, and he wants to help us. He wants to see you live this fruitful life so that you can look back and point back to him. You won't be able to point back to your own strength or other people or relationships or any other circumstance, but it will all come down to Jesus getting you through this season of your life. Friend, I want to encourage you. God chose you, he appointed you, he values you, and your time is coming, and you will reap your harvest. But God is waiting for you to be ready so that you know and understand how to fully rely on him, and you can point all things back to Jesus.